Hello, everybody. Welcome to the December 14th meeting of Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations. We have a smallish group today. Deborah Dawson is not feeling well, and Mike Lane had a conflict that he could not move from his law practice. So we've got Mike and Henry, and that counts as a quorum. So thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. Brittany, do we have any changes to the agenda or public comment?
We do not.
Okay, thanks. Can I get a motion first on the minutes of November 9th? Moved by Henry, seconded by Mike.
I'll second that.
All right, any comments or questions? All right, we'll vote. Henry?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that's unanimous. Don't laugh, Henry. It's okay to have a small committee. It is what it is. So
Yes, it is.
And our first speaker is Charlie Krasansky from Cornell. Brittany, I don't see him there. We're a couple minutes early before when he was supposed to come in. So just whenever he gets here, add him as a panelist then, okay?
Okay.
All right, great. Well, while we have just our own selves here, I texted Mike earlier about meeting in January, and usually the committees extend through January of the new year, pending the chair and the vice chair working out new committee structures. So I guess the assumption is you would certainly have a quorum without me, and Mike will go ahead and put a meeting together an agenda together for January. So I guess that'd be the second Tuesday in January. I'm not aware of the exact date at the moment. So maybe we can, while waiting for Charlie, are there any committee members' reports? Anything about legislative issues that either of you want to report on, Mike or Henry? Okay. Well, I see Charlie coming in. Hi, Charlie. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you, Charlie. We're down a couple of people today. Deborah Dawson's not feeling well, and Mike Lane had a closing he couldn't avoid. So we've got a private audience with you today.
There you go. Awesome. Good to see you.
So good to see you. So what's going on in Albany from your point of view?
Albany's
Nothing.
very different from the last time we talked. A lot of changes. I think some of the highlights, governor who has a, clearer path to be reelected, just what it seems like, in the last week. She's, I would say clearly the front runner. She has, again, I just keep telling people this, I've been around 36 years. I mean, it has never had the amount of a surplus that it has now, on any kind of a relative or nominal basis. They have more money, again, mostly federal money that has not been spent, that they have used for other things or for things that the Fed said they had to use. So the state has, just on a forward-looking basis, about $4 billion more than they need for next year. Now,
Billion with a B.
Yeah, that's right. Now, usually at this point in the process, on a normal year, they're about $4 or $5 or $6 billion short of what they need. So they do things, cash management, proposing, putting off a payment, sometimes cutting programs. Sure, they're always finding things they need to spend money on, but can we do this as a capital item instead of operating? Can we put that off? Can we phase in this program instead of paying for the whole thing? And this year, you don't have that problem. You have enough money to do the things that you're obligated to do, that people expect you to do, and you could even do new things. So a lot of pressure to do new things. The pandemic isn't over. But a lot of that's based on the economy, continuing to perform the way it's performing. Of course, inflation costs the state money as well. So there are costs associated with what's going on, but it's a comfortable, very comfortable position to be in if you're a governor putting a budget out. The budget comes out in about a month and a week, maybe 5 weeks from now. The budget comes out. She gives her state of the state address in 3 weeks. I don't know a lot of details, but it's a very comfortable position to be in when you have enough money to do things you need to do, and then even more money to do things. And I just have been predicting, I don't know this for a fact, but I've been predicting that the legislature and governor sort of get together on this budget, where she includes things the legislature has an interest in, that she knows they have an interest in. Maybe they're directly lobbying her, so that it's not like the Cuomo years was, this is mine and that's yours. And that's just how it was always done. Going way back, it was, we have a strong governor, when it comes to the budget, and Cuomo used all that clout. And it was, this is what I want to do, and I keep you out. And then the legislature would come in and add certain things and change a few things. I think this will be a very different governor budget, where she makes an effort to include things that she thinks that they want, and she can afford it, and it'll help her politically in getting people to say, wow, you included those things I really cared about. You know what? I want you to be the governor, rather than like Bill Parment, who's an Ithacan, former, he was here for about 30 years. I knew him real well. Saw him the last week in Ithaca. And, he said how, Andrew Cuomo, running for governor, called him for an endorsement. And he said, I'm not endorsing you. You never endorsed me. You never did anything I wanted, that I cared about. So again, Hochul, her first time around, what a nice position to be in. She's got money. She can actually, in the budget, and that's people care about budget items, things that they care about. And she's already maybe done a few things already like that. So that's a sort of a general prediction. I don't know how it'll be operationalized exactly, but she's, not tone deaf, not angry, not looking to keep people out. So that's a good start, so a very different feel here, Yeah.
I agree totally. I heard a clip last night about the mask mandate, and she mentioned that the first people she called was the State Association of Counties. It was like, what? Cuomo never knew we existed.
That's right. It was him versus. It was him versus everybody.
Absolutely. That's right. It was all about leverage. It was all about what I can trade and what you can make me do. Yep.
She is not like, she's the local government person. She's an upstater, which is, different. She obviously, really wants to appeal in a primary, so she's doing more progressive things that maybe has been known for. But again, it's so convenient to have some money.
Yeah.
Where usually we're talking about a $5 or $6 billion deficit, managing a deficit. Now she got cash, to spend. So, yeah. And the economy is, moving along. It's not shut down. The virus is so unpredictable. We see the Cornell numbers. We see the Tompkins County numbers. We see the numbers from around the state, the world. Oh God! So very hard to predict that. But she isn't. Boy, I just thought of this. She's not using that as a tactic to keep people out and to grab power and to be famous. She's, like you said, she's her staff have consulted with Cornell professors on the masking in schools, and they make it clear. It's like, we're taking in all the best information we can, and we want to make it the best decision for the state. And this is what we're thinking of doing. This is what we're probably going to do. And we have to get this information out. What's the best way to get this information out? It's very different. Very, very good.
And go ahead.
Although she did, I know that there were a number of counties that are not following the mask mandate. And so she is getting some flack for how quickly she put it in. And I know there was another mandate that she did with the healthcare workers earlier, but she basically, did it from on top and everything else. So.
But, let me add to that. But when a bunch of counties say, we're not going to enforce it, I dare you, Governor. And she responds with, I'm not sending my Department of Health out on inspection. Right. She sort of, I don't know about the words she chose, but my words, she's sort of saying, look, this is what I'm mandating. I'm not enforcing, I'm not going to force you to enforce it. Okay. Right. This is a give and take. Like so many things, you're not going to get 100% compliance. And,
right.
So maybe by doing this, she gets more compliance, just like the vaccine. Right. Like they could come down even harder on people to get vaccinated. Not doing that, just sort of the edging, edging people forward, giving them maybe more reasons to get vaccinated, more reasons to wear masks, more reasons, but not coming down hard on anybody, except in, like you said, the healthcare workers in certain areas where it's like you must right, but giving people plenty of time and all these inducements. So no, I think she's not looking to be a tough guy, and she knows it's a lot of give and take. Yep.
Are the federal funds basically generic, or are they intended to be spent on something special?
Yeah, so a lot of it is special, but so they spend the special first, and then all of it relieves the state of having to spend money, right?
Okay.
A lot of it, even special, like the COVID relief, those kinds of things. It's like, wow, you know what? The state's fronted the money, now get reimbursed, and then you have money to do sort of anything you need, which is great. So, but then hard to predict the future. You just never know, what the next couple of years bring. The federal government, let's assume the federal government is done with that kind of bailout. Now, of course, they could do other things, but in a couple of years, we're all facing, the federal money gone, and the state. I'm telling you, you create a new program, very hard to turn a program off. So the state's going to have new programs that they've created, which will continue to cost money, and you don't have the federal money. Okay, so that, it's going to be a tough time. I would say a couple of years from now, at the state level, trying to keep things going without any federal money.
Yeah, we're sort of in the same position. I mean, we've got our sales tax is breaking records. Our hotel tax, we've already done better than the whole year's budget. Our sales tax is higher than 2019, which was the highest year we'd ever had before. So we're trying to be cautious about what do you build in as ongoing expenses versus what do you pay for and structure as a one-time or a couple, 3 years kind of program. So this is very interesting. I will tell you, and I might as well mention it now. We've had conversations with Anna Kellis about one of our positions in the mental health wellness court. That's been a really successful court. And so she's going to put together a budget letter looking for this position, resource coordinator positions in other counties around the state, that OCA really should have new positions. The way we understand it is the OCA budget is flat. There's no increase in positions and in slots. And if you ask for a new position, it has to come from somewhere else. Is that the way you understand the OCA budget too? If that's something you're familiar with?
I just happen to have, two personal friends are judges, and they're in that world. Crazy stuff. Hard to believe what you said. It's like they were telling me the same thing, both of them. First, the chief judge is a Cuomo appointee, and the pandemic hit. She went nuts with, she tried to terminate, I think, 71 judges who were over 70 years old, who had been on, like, there's this thing where officially 70-year-old judges, you've got to retire that year, but then you keep people on senior status doing all this extra work. Okay, so she basically decided because of the pandemic, got to save money, we got to get rid of these people. There was a lawsuit, went all the way to the Court of Appeals, and she continued to argue even after she kept losing. And even after the pandemic, sort of, remember, there was like that bounce back and the federal money comes through, she's still arguing the case to lay off these judges. And then another judge I know, so one friend of mine was caught in that, and he was telling me all about it and how she persisted, crazy. Even after everybody is done, like we have federal money, she's still trying to win that suit and get rid of the judges. Okay, so she finally gave up. And then another judge was telling me how, like you said, no new positions, not filling any positions. And this judge was saying how she spoke to her like sort of a mindless attitude. Now, again, she is in charge of not just the chief judge, but administratively, she's in charge of the whole operation. They have a separate budget. If you ever see the budget, how it's laid out, it's crazy. It's like the court system and the legislature, they're in their own budget bill. And they basically, it's all worked out behind closed doors ahead of time. It's not negotiated like everything else. And so she is very, I can't explain it, like Cuomo-esque in charge. Nobody argues with her, and she's living sort of like on the cheap. And she hasn't updated her thinking. They have federal money. The state has cash. What are you doing? And this judge tells me, she said, look, I think it was her secretary left 6 months ago. I need somebody. I'm scheduling meetings. I'm getting stuck doing all this stuff. It's so inefficient. And the chief judge is like, sorry, that's the rule. Really mindless. And so I'm not surprised that they're not taking advantage of, good things. It's very top down, always has been, but there's something really wrong with that chief judge. I can't explain it. I don't know what's going on there. It just sounds again, and people don't really mess with them much. They leave them alone.
Mm-hmm.
But if Anna can get other legislators and maybe the governor to care about the stuff, go for it.
Yeah, we're gonna put together a letter for her, and she's gonna get other signatures. And you're right. If there's cash to spend, this would be the time to add to that roster.
Crazy.
Okay.
Very good. I said, I was talking to a state senator recently, and we were talking about some issue, and he was complaining about Albany, a new guy, and all the bills that come, and it's like they want you to vote on legislation and da da. And I told him, call us if you need data or information. There's so much data that Albany does not pay attention to. Nobody in the Capitol is ever saying, wait a minute, that's a good idea, but let's check to see how many of people, or let's just check the population, or let's check into, they never do that. It's all just anecdotes. He said, wow, what a great idea. He said he did that once and it stopped people cold, where he said, let's find out how many people in Onondaga County actually use blah, blah. And they were like, nobody could believe the number, right? So, but about this too, you know what? A little bit of information goes a long way. With this many people need this, or this many people, or we have one judge handling this many cases. Oh my God, I can't believe that. We got to fix that. So a little bit of data goes a long way, in Albany.
All right. Well, we're working on that. That's definitely something, going to try to get through. I was interested, you and I texted a little bit about the other shift, Chancellor Malatras looking for a new job. Following his boss's route of like, oh, I'll retire in 3 or 4 weeks. It's like weird, but okay. But Hochul's talking about an overhaul of the SUNY system. Can you talk some more about that? Because that would, I wonder if that's opportunity for community colleges.
Okay, no. So but let me tell you that. Okay, so we're trying to help them. They don't have a higher ed person who really knows much. Frankly, they have a guy who Cuomo had, a good guy, but he's really lower ed, and the two always go together. And almost always in Albany, because lower ed has so much money, right, involved compared to higher ed, they always have the person is usually very knowledgeable at lower ed, not higher ed. Okay, same thing here. So, quick story. So I can tell you where they are right now. it's a little bit of window dressing, I think, because she was on the defensive, Malatras, and she wasn't doing anything. I kept telling them, look, you've got to tell the SUNY board to get rid of him, because they won't get rid of him without you telling them, because that's how Cuomo set things up.
Right.
Cuomo picked people, and he told them, you do nothing unless I tell you to do it. And they didn't believe me until they saw it for themselves. I said, he's never going to leave until the SUNY board tells him leave. And the SUNY board isn't going to tell him to leave until you tell the SUNY board to tell him to leave. Okay, fine. So finally, they got sick and tired of it. But to answer your question, I think he was selling them on an idea. So I think he gave them some words. She kept being asked about Malatras. She said, oh, the state of the state, she was buying time. In the state of the state, I have a revamp of the SUNY system. He sort of sold them on, Jim did, before he announced he was leaving. And that caught them off guard, actually. You know, it's funny in a funny way. But the revamp is really not much. It's permitting the university centers, including Binghamton, to charge a little more in tuition and to keep that money, okay, which they've been wanting to do for 20 years. Nothing dramatic. And rearranging some research centers that now are at SUNY. So, there was this Albany Nanotech, which is a scandal-ridden thing that started at SUNY Albany. It created the base for SUNY Poly, which became a new campus under, again, this guy who's going to go to jail, Elaine Calleros. So Jim has sold them on moving that back to SUNY Albany. Makes no sense. I think he's trying to run it. So I think he's trying to create a job for himself at SUNY by being the new Calleros. Really sleazy, okay? But again, I'm wrong. So that's my guess. I could be totally wrong. But again, that's the revamp. We're talking to them about doing so much more, and about community colleges, and actually changing the governance system of SUNY, because SUNY has a central board, which the Times Union came out with an editorial, which was really good, pointing out the fact that most people don't even know it. The governor appoints all the trustees except the student, okay? And they're all Cuomo appointees because they all have terms. And, in our opinion, and in many people's opinion, 17 people in Albany cannot effectively manage and govern, a 64 campus system, which includes community colleges, university centers, and the 4 years. So, I think there's some traction now, at least in the legislature, on that. We've been talking to legislators about this actually for years, and now they're starting to listen a lot more. And there was something else about that too. And of course, the people over the years, there are just 18 people who are against any kind of a change, and that's SUNY trustees and the chancellor. Now, so this chancellor's going, and the trustees have sort of shown themselves to be pretty sort of, I would say, negligent, when it comes to managing SUNY, and none of them are Hochul people. And so we'll see how dramatic the changes to SUNY are. We're trying to make them more dramatic than they're starting out with, and also funding. So there's very little talk about SUNY funding, because I've learned, that Jim wasn't going to ask for much. It was a technique to try to stick around, right? He didn't want to be a problem. And so I don't know how much they're going to ask for. I don't know how much they're going to get. We're trying to get people to understand that SUNY and the community colleges need real money. The state has money. Under Cuomo, they were all frozen. So we're trying to, get people's attention on that. See if we succeed.
Charlie, you should go to work for the governor.
Yeah, right. Too much.
Why would he want to step down from a good job?
Well, I mean, what you're saying is you're saying the second floor doesn't really have somebody with that expertise.
I have a few people who have been, they have some people, but it's funny. We talk to them and they have funny views. I think you can easily sort of succumb to the, SUNY's only for those kids, or, CUNY, it's a mess. You can sort of give in to, and what I point out is, look, in 1948, when SUNY was put together, I think it was Governor Dewey, it was a brand new system. they didn't have a choice but to have the governor install trustees. None of them went to SUNY. Okay, because SUNY was brand new, right? The collection of colleges, some new, some not so new, and their kids didn't go there. And so, but fast forward, they should really find trustees who went there, successful, who care, who know about the campuses. And actually every campus should have a board, which of course they couldn't do it in 1948 because they were brand new. They could have, but it would have been a lot of work. So every campus should have a board. There are tiny colleges that we've never heard of in New York State that have boards, and Stony Brook and Binghamton don't have boards. It makes zero sense. And so they should really update the governance structure of SUNY, and put people. I would say, and the legislature needs to have a say, not just the governor. And so we'll see how much they do, or if they.
Charlie, do you have any kind of a white paper or anything written down with it, like, with a proposal here?
Not really, not really.
And there's nobody in Albany that's championing this. I would think that there's some statewide association of colleges and universities in New York State that would be pushing this as well.
I'll just finish with this. This sort of explains a lot, and I'll hand over the reins here. But let's not forget. So SUNY is a state agency. It really, deep down, it is. Now, again, we don't like to say it, but it is a state agency with a board, and so that's what it is. And there are, and people get sort of comfortable with what they know. That's how it was set up, because it was put together, a lot of parts. It's brand new, it's like 1948.
Right.
And I think I would just say at this point, it's mature. They've got, these campuses have been around, and now time to make them into more of a, more independent higher ed institutions. So that's it. So we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, Charlie. Hi, Amanda. Just to finish up with Charlie, this seems like a real opportunity, and it may be that, let's say she's elected, then she feels empowered to do something bigger, to do, a more structural evaluation. That's also, that gives time this year to sort of develop the ideas, and for the legislature to develop some ideas too.
I'll leave you with this. So you're exactly right. That's what they told me in August. Hochul's people said to me, great, but we're not going to take anything on that we don't need to take on. We have enough that we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, but now what I'm saying to them is, because of Jim and what's been happening and the SUNY board, what I'm saying is, hey guys, you know what you need to do? Take the next 6 months, appoint a commission. Now I remind them, that when Spitzer came in, Hunter Rawlings and we got together, and they concluded that higher ed was like the future of the state. And Spitzer appointed a higher ed commission. Hunter was the chair. They came out with some big time recommendations. It was like, create an endowment for SUNY, which doesn't have, again, the governance, big funding. Spitzer in that budget, that next year, that was the best year SUNY ever had in funding. Of course, the stock market crashed right as he was presenting his budget. The privatization of the lottery, which was going to be the endowment, some people didn't like that. Okay, they saw it as too slick. Okay, but still, it was the best fiscal year. And then Cuomo came in after the stock market came down. Everything's been static ever since. But what I'm saying in Albany now is, hey, now, why don't you put together a task force or a commission, buys you a little bit of time. It also figures out what kind of chancellor do you need, right? And then after the election, you come out and you can make these structural changes and get somebody good, because who's going to want to come to New York now with this? Nothing changed. So, but to your point, the timing, I think, is really good to make some changes. So we'll see. But hello, man.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. It's always great to have you. We really, really appreciate your steady and consistent appearances here. It's been really wonderful. And I just want to mention that Zoe Nelson's connection got us a meeting yesterday with the governor's office on childcare. So so big thanks to Zoe, and I'll follow up with her on that. That was really, really, really good. So
what Amanda says, I want to hear this.
Okay. Hi, Amanda. Welcome.
Hi. How are you?
It's great to actually see you. This is wonderful.
Here I am.
All right. Because we know you got nothing going on in Washington.
Nah, just another day.
Another day.
I would say-
Paradise.
I would say it's actually, it's not glamorous and it doesn't, sell headlines, but it's actually a pretty productive. We're kind of ticking through things here, but that's kind of wonky and nobody wants to talk about that stuff, but
Well,
I will.
they'll talk about it when there's a crisis and it's like, oh my God, how are they going to do all these things? And then when your boss actually goes ahead and does all these things, it doesn't even get mentioned. Right? That's the only,
It's boring. It's boring, crisis
Right.
over, well, we always have a crisis someplace, but
right.
do you want me to kind of give you a quick, I don't know what everybody's interested in. Do you want a quick sort of like state of play of what's been done, what's pending kind of thing? Do you just go into specific questions that I probably will be horrible at answering because who the heck knows? What is better for you all?
How about, a quick rundown of what things, of where things stand? I know we have questions obviously about Build Back Better and voting rights, so we can get to that too. So, yeah, thanks.
So, we've had a very long to-do list before us for some time. In December, it was and is shaping up, and, we're moving through as being a very, time sensitive, time crunch, a lot of things. So coming into this month, we had a government that was going to run out of funding in the first couple of days of December. We have a debt limit that needs to be raised so that we can not spend more money, but make good on the promises and the commitments that we made from previous commitments to allocate resources and things like that. We also have our Build Back Better agenda that we needed to move forward. We had the infrastructure bill that we needed to do. We have nominees, both for judicial and other key appointments throughout the administration's requests that need to be put into force. And we also have to deal with one of the most pressing matters, which is the protection of our democracy, which is sort of the bedrock of everything else that we're talking about. So, and we do it with a divided, evenly split Senate. So, good, easy end of the year. So the good thing is, obviously, we all know we got the infrastructure bill passed. I think last we talked, we were kind of basking in that excitement a little bit. If there are lingering questions about that, I can try to touch on some of those. We were able to extend the continuing resolution, so we're not running out of money. We can continue to function without a governmental shutdown, and that expires the 18th of February. So we do need to get back together and get a budget done. As we speak-ish, we are bringing to the floor a vote to raise the debt limit, which will get us through into 2023. And I will note that is bipartisanly agreed upon. Last week, lo and behold, cooler heads prevailed, and we were able to pass a measure for this and only this topic to have a simple majority to pass what needed to be done so that we can restore and maintain the full faith and credit of the United States. And, we did. And that piece of legislation, Senator Schumer is bringing to the floor, I don't know, anytime now, and that will, knock on wood, be done today. We have the beginnings works of the NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, which has so far been bicamerally and bipartisanly negotiated. We hope that we will see that come to the floor as early as today, which is obviously something that's critically important. And, we also have some judicial nominees that are moving forward yesterday, I think it was. And I'm sorry, after a while, it all just blurs into one long day, and I don't remember the time-space continuum is. We placed one of the first. I'm trying to think which one is today and who was yesterday. I think today we hope there's a district court federal judiciary nominee that will go to the floor for a vote, and that will be one of the few Asian Americans to sit on the federal judiciary. So that's very exciting. And yesterday, the first Korean American woman to a federal appeals judgeship was confirmed, straight down the middle, shocker. So that's exciting. We're moving forward on those kinds of things. On the Build Back Better front, obviously that's critically important, and it's something that, Senator Schumer is laser focused on delivering. He has set up a timeline for himself that he's, hopeful that we will hit as a Senate to be able to bring this to the floor before the Christmas holiday. And this week, the what they call bird bath meetings are ongoing with the parliamentarian. So they're bipartisan meetings. The Republicans meet and the Democrats meet to kind of talk through their perspectives on what is contained within the bill, advance their arguments, and then they will come together. The various committee members from both will come together to have more additional conversations with the parliamentarian. But so that is moving forward, which is important, and everybody's familiar with what the bird bath rule is in respect to the reconciliation. Okay, if you have questions, I will try to answer them, with the caveat that I am not a parliamentarian and never intend to be one. And the president has been engaged in talking with members of of our caucus. I think you've seen reported he and Senator Manchin had some conversations. So everybody's engaged, and we are, moving the trajectory forward to kind of advance the timeline that Senator Schumer has wanted to see. And we will see how that kind of plays out this week. And then obviously the looming thing that is so critically important, and probably in the front of the mind of everything that the senator thinks about, is voting rights and how we can try to move things forward. And I think you're all very versed in the challenges before us, the mathematical challenges, the conversations, the matter of the filibuster, the conversations that various individuals, members, and others have put forward about, can we get to a point that we have a carve out to just have a simple majority vote for something like that. There are those that I will point out, in order to even have that conversation, you have to have enough willing to vote to do that. And there are those who are reticent to do that. We're sort of in the same sort of space that we've been in, we've talked about, but what hasn't diminished or Senator Schumer hasn't been deterred in recognizing the utmost priority of doing this. And, it is all systems a go, and efforts being done all of the time to figure out how we can bring something forward to protect that, which we need to do. So that's kind of this week. That's a lot. I don't know if there's questions that I could try to answer for you.
Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, it is impressive. I'll just mention in the chat, Diane Miller's been trying to get into the meeting, but she's at least listening. So they're working on questions
Martha, you froze.
or comments. Still frozen?
No, you're
No, I
back.
think you're back.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, I wanted to get back when you started talking about extending the debt limit, and the continuing resolution, of course, runs out within a couple of months, and we'll be right back where we started. And then you mentioned something about a bipartisan extension to 2023. And it wasn't clear to me if you were talking about that you'd had bipartisan agreement that you would vote on that issue just by a simple majority, or if you had actually come up with a bipartisan agreement on the debt limit itself.
So last week there was basically it's a two-pronged thing. There was a measure that moved through the Senate to allow for the narrow lens focus of raising the debt limit. So a vote on a measure that would do that it would only require a simple majority. So that the stall techniques that are part of the somewhat archaic system would be put aside for this and only this measure. So that allows a bill to come to the floor today that the Senator Schumer will be putting forward, that will be voted on, that will pass because of that agreement last week, to enable us to raise the debt limit to manage all of our obligations and get us to 2023. So we won't have the fiscal cliff concern until a year from now.
And everything will be better then.
Right, of course.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other committee questions? Okay, I'll jump in with on another. You mentioned other nominees. I understand that the State Department nominees are being held up by Senator Cruz. Is it just Senator Cruz or by others as well? And
how do I say? I don't know exactly the cast of characters responsible for that particular one. Senator Cruz is one that is, I think, is at the forefront of that. But I do know that it is something that obviously Senator Schumer's, I don't know how much, has been in touch with, the administration about their concerns here and their priorities, and there's an active conversation going on, and a recognition that this is something that needs to be dealt with. But yes, I do know that Senator Cruz is one of them. I don't honestly remember. I should look. It's usually some combination of Senator Cruz, Senator Paul, Senator Lee is always, and I don't know who in this, but I think I do know that Ted Cruz is front and center on this one.
Okay,
I
I mean,
don't know if that's helpful.
well, some of us might agree with him about the Nord Stream pipeline. I mean, rather not see more gas infrastructure. It is, it used to be mantra that, the president should have his team or her team and get these appointments. So crippling the State Department by just holding up all nominations is, well, yes, they, okay, I won't say
Yep.
more.
Yep.
Well, partisan politics has devolved into a game of just whatever you do, don't let the other side have a win.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were, a handful of things that were sort of sacrosanct and just, givens in terms of how we governed, and, nominations that are, obviously, over the years, there have been some sort of egregious, we can think back to even things like Harriet Myers when she was put forward as a potential justice. Although in the world of Brett Kavanaugh, was she that terrible? I don't know. But, there was much more of an acceptance of this is just, pro forma for, the president to have his or her, team of advisors. And there are many other examples of that has sort of gone by the wayside.
Mhm. Absolutely. We're thinking, we're certainly watching the Build Back Better Act. And do you have a sense of what are the remaining sticking points? I've seen something about Senator Gillibrand trying to push on family leave. I don't know if Manchin is opposed to the overall price tag, even though he got it cut in half already. What do you think are the sticking points that are left?
I would be hesitant to put forward any specific one as being the linchpin. I think that if you were, as being good students of Real News, you probably are pretty versed in the sort of ethos of conversations about, points of contention. There are conversations about the, family leave. Senator Manchin has spoken about concerns with the child tax credit and extending that. At times he has had commentary about the, looming specter of inflation and concerns about, adding to inflationary spending. We some of the SALT, the state and local tax deduction components have come and gone. At one point, some of the expansions of what Medicare would include was a bone of contention. So I don't know that there's any one specific item that is the make or break at this point. Those are some that are in the conversations that are, negotiations are a dance. So one step forward, one step back.
And we hear that I haven't heard much about Senator Sinema lately. Is she kind of quietly ready to vote for it?
I wouldn't be so bold as to comment on what another member's preferences is at the moment. I think that,
especially not that one.
What you read in the media is pretty much what I know as well. But I will say that, obviously as a member of our caucus, she, along with Senator Manchin and the other 48 members that we have, are, I should say 47, although Senator Schumer talks to himself, are part of ongoing and routine conversations that he has to bring everyone along through the conversations and remain active in this process.
Okay. Hello, Diane. Glad you joined us. You got here. That's great. I would like to raise it. We have Patrick coming from NISAC coming on in a little bit. And they're going to be talking about the NISAC legislative agenda. And one of the top issues is that FMAP reconciliation. And Amanda, you and I have talked about this over the years, where it was reconciliation from the ACA, the additional federal funding that was supposed to go to counties. And the Senator Schumer in particular understood this issue and pushed for this higher allocation that would go to counties. And we're still fighting to get that at the state level. It was over this past year, we issued a FOIL request to the Department of Health and actually got the information, finally got the information of what our calculated FMAP appropriation should be. Other counties went ahead and did the same thing. So the calculation now that NISAC has is that there's over $1 billion owed to counties across the state for this FMAP reconciliation, for this funding that was a reimbursement that was supposed to come to counties. And the state hasn't actually paid that reimbursement since I think it's 2016. So I just want to let you know, and that is, we have made progress in the fact that we've actually gotten that information at a county level from New York State, and that other counties have gone ahead and also gotten that information. We understand that the Department of Health was always was prepared to give the information to counties, but it was the division of the budget that had always held up that information and withheld the reimbursement. So by breaking through and getting information out of health, we seem to have made a kind of a difference here. And so this is one of NISAC's top 3 priorities. Counties in New York City are owed well over $1 billion in federal Medicaid savings that have been withheld by the state. The last reconciliation of these funds was completed for state fiscal year 2015-2016 costs. So I know that in his spare time, Senator Schumer is thinking about this. This was really one of his accomplishments on our behalf. So I want to bring you up to date that that's one of NISAC's top legislative issues this year that they're talking about with the governor's office, with the division of budget. And Charlie was just telling us how much money New York State has, in large part thanks to the federal government. Thank you so very much. So maybe this is finally an issue, a time when this can be, we can be made whole on that. So kind of wanted to let you know, because you all were very, very involved in making that happen.
Well, I will say that NISAC is they're a great, partner to us, and they are very communicative and helpful with sharing information. So I have no doubt that they will make sure that, our team is continued to be well briefed on their priorities on this and the other items that they're looking for and toward in 2022. And, obviously I think it's a jurisdictional level that's sort of outside of our purview, but it's, good for awareness. And obviously you're correct that FMAP was something that was, a big priority, something that my boss got long ago, way back in the days when we had the, one of the few states in the nation that had such a high percentage that was not only in total cost, but was passed on to states to begin with, or to counties to begin with. And so, it is something that, is an accomplishment and a priority of ours. So I'm sure everyone will keep us posted.
Okay, good. Absolutely. Charlie or Diane, do you have any comments or questions for Amanda? Please weigh in if you want to bring something up.
Hi, Amanda. Just want you to know that upstate New York is not the only place that has problems with broadband out here on the rural eastern shore of Maryland. So always appreciate everything that Senator Schumer is doing. The amount of funding for broadband that was in the infrastructure bill, I think, has the potential to be transformative. And so fingers crossed that it is deployed and implemented correctly. Um, as far as comments for you, I think Cornell could not be more pleased with where the NDAA ended up. I know that there were a lot of provisions in there that we were watching that I think have been sort of punted into the USICA conference. And so we can have a sideline conference about that. But I think NDAA was a spectacular result. So kudos to you for that. And obviously, there are a lot of provisions at stake for the university in the Build Back Better bill. And so appreciate everything that you're doing to get that across the finish line. Of course, the one thing that we are concerned about was that the House dropped out the fix to the endowment tax. And again, that's a Cornell only issue. So we can have a sideline conversation about that one as well. But no, like I said, you are the maneuver on the debt ceiling.
Yep.
Genius.
A little, it's
I'm
sort of like a tree falls in the forest moment. Nobody heard it. So, it's like, but
Right.
yes.
I know. And I just having, spent my Hill career in the House when the Senate is a mystery to me. And so when something like that happens, it's like, wow. So anyway, like I said, genius. So keep it up. Good work. Thank you, Cornell. Very, very, very appreciative and grateful.
Happy to hear.
And yeah, and I know I think the only other one and the CHIPS Act, I think, is the only thing, the other thing that we're waiting to see get across the line, because we're very excited about
Well,
the
I
opportunity.
think on the CHIPS front, the last year when that language was authorized, like we need to appropriate the monies out of CHIPS, and that's all rolled into the USICA fund,
Right.
Which I think last conversation I had with John, things are moving in a good place.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I know it was set up as an emergency appropriation, from last year's money. And so I know that we've kind of moved into a new fiscal year. So not sure how that's impacted, but I guess we're in a continuing resolution. So we're kind of still in FY21 anyway.
We're in fiscal purgatory. That's where we are.
I know. So yeah, so that's my list. So
Okay, good.
Great. Charlie?
Mention something just, Diane knows this, but Martha Pollack is meeting with the New York Fed chair, I think, end of this week. And so Diane and I put some things together, and one of them was broadband. The importance of broadband to the economy of the state. And again, not just upstate, but there are urban areas in the state that have broadband, but the service quality is very poor. And then of course, upstate, boy, I mean, we know what the situation is upstate. And so we put that on the list of Martha to bring up, with the Fed. They could do a study. They could look at the impact long term to the economy or to certain demographics. Again, it's that big an issue. And there are people in Albany talking about having New York State regulate it and require it like electricity, where it's where it would be a public utility, where the service would have to be reliable. You'd have access to it at a certain cost, and heavily regulated. So it wouldn't just be up to some company's whim to, oh, gee, that person's too far from the road to serve, or gee, that community, we don't really care about those people. So that's just some moves afoot on that topic in Albany. But again, the federal government, the money, so critical. And now maybe there's a state role. So we'll see.
That's interesting, Charlie. I hadn't heard that. What about the FCC maps? Earlier this year, I remember I was on a NACO call where the FCC, I think she's acting chair of the FCC, acknowledged that the maps are so inadequate and that we're sort of stuck with those maps whenever any grant funding is considered, where if one house in a whole census block has access or has broadband of a certain speed, the whole census block is considered covered. And that just, sort of by definition leaves out a vast amount of a vast number of our residents. Do you know where that, and she said that they were going to redo those maps. Do you know anything where that is?
Last year in December, about this time when we passed, I'm never going to remember the name of it now. It was sort of the combo of another COVID relief 2.056 before we got, or actually 3.2,
Krista,
which also dealt with some other spending matters. So it was like the consolidated spending and something. It included a directive to redo the FCC mapping. And a lot of it was predicated on conversations, and sort of the conversation Senator Schumer had been having with stakeholders all around our state about how ludicrous it is that you go into a community and if one person has service that can access some sort of service, it's deemed coverage. And so for New York State, I think they were saying at one point, we're 95% covered, which is, I sit here and tell you when I'm home, nonsense. I have more boosters and equipment sitting around my house than probably a Best Buy at this point, and I still, struggle to stay connected. I think that it was about 60 some billion dollars, and I could be off on that figure, but 65 billion is what, we sort of have on the table to go into making investment for broadband build out through the infrastructure bill. So clearly, we don't want to take, and that's a variety of components, which we can talk about. But, my point being is that's a huge chunk of change. So obviously we want to make sure that those funds are going to be deployed and used reflective to where need is and not just for those cases that we have. I think the latest that I saw was that we're probably almost a year out from those maps being deployable or utilized. I haven't had an actual update, to be honest with you, in some time. Every time I have an ongoing list of things that I need to kind of chase around and drill down on more, and then 15 things pile on top of it. But it is in the works. And obviously it is going to be an important component to how we can effectively use these monies that we have also allocated. But the good news is that it should be a heck of a lot better than what we were working off of before.
Okay.
And
That's good.
much more reflective of, will comport with the reality of what's on the ground.
That's important. We know, and I know New York State is also doing a survey, and locally we're doing a survey where we have an RFP out for an ISP to drive around the roads of the county and be able to see, where the wires are. It's not everything, but it's a much more direct and accurate calculation. So that's good news that it's, in the works. We're used to things taking a long time. We get it.
Indeed.
At least it's in the works.
we're not that happy with it. Don't let her kid you.
All right. Well,
Progress.
we'll just move on. We won't worry about it then. There was 2 communities in the area, Dryden being one of them, that received ARC grants this week to help with some of the build outs that they're independently working on. I think Dryden's was maybe like 600,000, and I can't remember, the other one was maybe like 450,000. But I think that we will for some time. I mean, I say this all the time, but after what we've all been through, when our broadband quite literally kept us alive, it is not a luxury. It is not a way to, entertain your children. It is it's a critical artery like water and sewer. And, I think the amount of money that was put on the table through the BIF really speaks to just that point. There's, a little over $40 billion just in construction of, the infrastructure to deliver the services. And then there's a whole bunch of, more money to make sure that it is accessible and usable. And, I'm very excited about, I think they're the right investments. And I think it's the whole package, if you will, and in getting us to a point that we can actually utilize and have this resource. But it's going to take us some time to get there. But I will, I moved my FCC mapping update to the top of my list of things I have to do. It will be back down by the end of the day, but I will, it's a good reminder that I want to get an update on that too. So
Okay.
I feel like most of, I know it's true everywhere, but I feel like in the southern tier, we have predominantly some of just the worst statistics over and over and over. And, the comptroller did a report, I think it came out sometime in the spring or summer, that kind of went through and ranked all of New York's counties in terms of accessibility and things like that. And that's a good, I mean, if you want to kind of look at some good factoids and data, that's a pretty good one to look at.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
mentioning cell coverage, they're kind of connected, and many of the places that have broadband challenges, the cell services is also tough. So people really hardly have any options. But I will say it is urban as well as rural. I know Henry
right.
sometimes is the one in the middle of the city of Ithaca is the one who has the worst coverage. So, well, I just also want to thank you for you're not calling them earmarks, the congressionally delegated appropriations.
The congressionally designated spending requests, CDSs.
Okay, and we know that that they're sort of still moved ahead and won't be fully considered until the CR was not the vehicle for them, that if there's a budget passed in February, that those would are in the bucket. And they were GAC, the Downtown Conference Center, Dryden Rail Trail, and I think this Ithaca Wastewater Treatment Plant was the other proposal. So that's really good news for Tompkins County.
I'm trying to think, I think there's three. There's the convention center, there's the electrogrid upgrade, I think, which is connected to the sewer project, right? I think that's like the greening of the grid, if you will. It's a very bad explanation, but bear with me. And then the recreational trail for Dryden. And then the Greater Ithaca Activity Center. So that's four. Yes.
Four, yeah.
And so, I mean, that's an astronomical for me. That's quite an impressive scorecard. I mean, back in the days of earmarks, obviously we weren't the majority leader, but we were, relatively influential even back then. We would get a handful for the state. And so, I have quite a few that came out for the Southern Tier alone. And I think that speaks volumes to obviously the stature of Senator Schumer and the advocacy and the strength of the projects that we were able to submit. The actual future of them, I don't know. This is sort of a test case, a pilot program, if you will, this year, after a return after so many years. And, just like we talked about before, the past is not a prologue to anything anymore. So I always joke, I'm like, I've done this for 20 years and I realize now I know nothing because everything that we knew or we did just isn't the way anymore. Or it can be circumvented or changed, or, somebody gets mad or is afraid of somebody's mighty tweet, then the world changes. That being said, the intention and the hope is that those projects that were included in the committee reports that oversee those 12 spending bills will move forward. I'm sort of a pessimist that I say I think the more continuing resolutions we have and the further we get down the pike of, finding ourselves 6 months into a fiscal year with no budget, it becomes harder possibly. And, in past years we had seen sometimes if we had a huge omnibus that we had to pass, some of those things that may or may not, might be a little more contentious didn't stay in. I think, the good thing is in this case, and this is like a weird, and, Diane can probably remember back to the days of when it used to have more of a system. This is a very weird system in a lot of ways. One of them being that, the four corners weren't all on the same page to have earmarks come back to begin with. So the House, for whatever reason, everybody, I'm sure I can surmise why. I mean, it's an important it's an important tool to ensure electoral victories when you can deliver for your districts. And so for the House, I think that was probably part of the calculus. But on the Senate side, Senator McConnell was not necessarily in the same place as and many of his caucus members with having these returns. So they sort of had this funky, well, we're not going to say you can't have them, but we're not going to say we're doing them kind of approach. Which led us to in June having okay, we're doing this, and off we went. So I think there are a lot of members that have skin in the game. They were able to secure projects, and even Rand Paul, who hates spending money for the federal government, was not shy to ask for resources for Kentucky, as well he should, given the devastation that they sustained, yet he didn't give a flying fig when it was anybody else's state. So I think because there are, so many members that have skin in the game, there's an interest in seeing them be retained, but some of it will be a matter of the clock. So what I say to everybody who asks, if, we were able to happily share that you were included in the committee's mark so far, that's excellent. Just bear in mind that, you're still in the game, but there's a long game ahead of us. So, we cannot consider these to be gospel.
Right. We certainly understand that. And hi, Patrick, even though your signature says Ryan. Hi, good to see you. We certainly understand that, but certainly if having 4 projects even move forward is, as you said, is a big
Tremendous.
deal.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
Those
Absolutely.
are really, really
And
important.
the weird thing for those of you, I know, Martha, this won't be your problem anymore, although you're not going to go away far, I'm sure. The weird thing will be is we very well could be talking about 2023 congressionally directed spending requests if we decide we're going to have them for 2023 while we're trying to figure out if we're going to have them in 2023. So that'll be really fun. As our scorecards advance for fall.
So a question on that front, Cornell did not submit any project requests this year, but we did sign community letters in support of a few. And so, but thinking ahead, and it's not that Cornell wouldn't, we just didn't have enough time to get all of our ducks in a row. And so, will there be any indication early enough in the process which accounts are earmarkable so that we can get those ducks in a row? Say there is a project that we would like to submit. Exactly.
Yeah, that would be great. And that would be a lot. I think that if we're going to, stand this up as an actual process that happens, a new legacy process, we need to have that, I think as much not only formalized timeframes, but information available in a consumable and helpful way, so that entities that, would want to take advantage of this process can do so. And frankly, there was a lot of, the old earmark process was fraught with contention and scandal at times. We had teapot museums and bridges to nowhere, but we really worked through that process and got to a point that there was a lot of transparency, and I think in all the years that I was, working on these, I did, I think 10 rounds of them. It was the clearest and the most accountable we'd ever gotten. And then we pulled the rug out under them.
Yep.
And in order to want to be respectful of those goals of trying to be good stewards of the public dollar and have that transparency, the more information and the more streamlined of a process that is out and predictable process that we can make available, that ensures that we get good quality projects. Obviously, we don't submit things that the senator hasn't, reviewed and we haven't vetted as a team. But I think just for the totality integrity of the process, if you're telling folks in June, hey, you got 2 weeks to give me projects, there's a lot of really good quality candidates and the kinds of investments we probably want to be making as a nation that kind of get left out because they just don't have the skill sets or the resources to scramble to put things together. So I think that, certainly the goal, and it behooves everyone to kind of have that clarity and information is upfront as soon as possible. And I hope for, obviously Cornell has a resource that has sort of, you have a team that is versed in this, but I think about some of the, the smaller entities who do not. That being said, my intention will be hopefully to engage with as many stakeholders as quickly as possible once I know what in God's name we're doing for 2023, once we get there. So, stay tuned. I, have notebooks of people that I want to circle back with, and I hope that we'll have a good amount of information for next time.
Oh, appreciate that so much. I'm sure that Aaron Vaughn still has the scars from some of our early 2000 projects that John McCain didn't like very much. So
who was it Cornyn who got after the grape? I can't.
That was
Coburn.
That was McCain.
Coburn. And Coburn.
Yeah,
Coburn got very
they did not like, and they're building
taxpayer
it.
dollars to make wine.
They are building the grape lab at Geneva as we, well, they haven't broken ground yet, but that's coming very soon. And so we hope that your boss will be up there to
if Chuck Schumer had his way, he would be everywhere all the time in every place. Unfortunately, and thankfully he does not get his way, but I'm sure we will.
That's right. Well, we got some dirt for him to shovel. So
good.
Well, Amanda, we've really sucked up a lot of your time today. And just one other point, if anybody from Senator Manchin or Cinema staff might watch Rachel Maddow last night a pitch about the filibuster where, if you could do a carve out for Mike Lee and you could do a carve out for the debt ceiling, yeah, we can, and the Senate didn't blow up. Let's do a carve out for voting rights. So that remains that big unfinished.
I think that, how do I say this? There's always a lot of strategy to a lot of things that happen that may not always be apparent to everyone, but I thought her commentary was, I took great interest in it. It was a point well taken, point well made.
Very good.
Well, before I leave, I just want to, Martha, since this might be our last communication with you in your official capacity, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done over the years for your community, but also, all the collaboration with us. And I know that Senator would say it if he was here, and I'm sure at some point he will say it. But we appreciate your service and all the work, and I expect that you will not go far because we will still have you on speed dial, I'm sure. So,
well, thank you, Amanda. You've been a great friend to Tompkins County, and really always accessible. And it's just been a real treat to work with you and with you individually, others on the senator's staff, and Senator Schumer. Looking at Patrick, he would come to NISAC all the time and come to the Democratic Rural Conference and was so accessible and so friendly, and always a real pleasure to feel like he was just there and anybody could talk with him. So to Diane and to Charlie, you all have made this committee really a wonderful opportunity. Mike Lane was not able to be on the call, but he mentioned yesterday how he always learned so much from these conversations. So it's been a real honor and treat to have you come to our meetings almost every month. And
do we know if it's a practice that will continue?
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
Can I say something? No, without giving too much away about internal legislative politics. I know I don't think anybody can fill Martha's shoes with respect to how this committee has worked. But I know both Henry and I are interested in how this initiative is going to go forward. I suspect it will not be a monthly committee. And in no small, the time that all of our visitors who come in and inform us really don't have the time to do this every month, and we don't want to take advantage of you every month. But I think that we will be in touch with you to try to structure a system where at least quarterly we can all get together and you can brief some subset of our new legislature, or maybe even the entirety of our new legislature. So if you hear from Henry and myself, if you get an email, that's likely what it's going to be about. And we're eager to hear how this can continue without putting so much stress on your time, especially yours, Amanda, because I know how busy you are.
I would not be doing my job if I wasn't stressed and overused. So my boss expects it no other way, because he's like the
but we want to make your job a little easier if we can.
I do believe this, and I say this to everybody. I don't know that I can always consume all of the information that I get, but I really can't do my job if I don't know what's going on. And it's not just talking about, obviously these kind of policy discussions are important, but sometimes it's just even saying, so-and-so is grumpy at so-and-so, and you should know this before they ask you to help. I mean, that stuff helps too. Because our ultimate goal is to make sure that we, collectively can work to make our community and our state and, our world better. And so, I'm always happy to be asked to hear something, talk to somebody, be engaged in something. And, that's an open invitation to everybody, whether in this formalized capacity or just on a one-on-one kind of basis. And so, one of the things I do hope that those of you who will still be in elected office come 2023 will help with is, there's a lot of new positions that have come into force. You've had county administration changes, you've had changes at the airport. The Ithaca City Council's got a lot of new folks coming on. Luckily, I've been delighted. A good friend of mine is the new chief of staff at the city. So she's been, very good at kind of helping me stay abreast of things. But I asked for introductions and just making sure that people know we're here and what I hope to do and I want to do through our accessibility. So, use and abuse us, please. That is why I'm here. So.
Well, thanks for that update, Deborah. I did not know about that. I think every year the legislature does look at committee structure and membership. We usually have committees continue into January while those conversations are happening. So I know Mike Sigler, I just texted him this morning, and he is vice chair of this committee. He is expecting a January Tiger meeting, but setting that agenda will be up to him. So it sounds like the discussions are going on about continuing some kind of interaction in the future, which I certainly think is very worthwhile as a two-way street. I feel like this has been an absolutely priceless opportunity for us to communicate what matters to you and to hear from you what's going on. And I would double that for Charlie and Diane and Ryan when he's come from NISAC to come here as well. So again, thank you, Amanda, for everything. We'll let you go now and give our best to the senator with huge
Thank you,
thanks.
everybody. Stay
Happy
safe.
holidays.
Yeah.
Good luck, Diane. I just got a text that you're shutting down in-person classes, so.
Yeah,
I
they just went to
I know that
Illinois.
they were.
Yeah,
I
it
knew
just,
that they were going to be making an announcement very soon. So yeah.
good luck.
Yep.
Stay safe, everybody.
All right.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Amanda.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Well, Diane, your slot has shrunk considerably, but I know that you did want to hear from Amanda. So.
Oh, no,
other-
there is absolutely nothing that I can say that she hasn't already said about what's going on in Washington. We are at the mercy, essentially, of Senator Schumer. And so, and so, that's everything that Amanda said is where Cornell is at. We are waiting for resolution on the budget. We're delighted that they're going to finish the debt ceiling, because that sort of throws everything into chaos if there's a default. We're waiting on the Build Back Better bill, and how there's a resolution to all of these moving parts. And we would love to see everything wrapped up before Christmas, so that you're not finishing up last year when you're starting next year. And so, I mean, like I said, there is nothing else to add to that. And of course, I've got the same messages that Amanda got, so I don't have any insights onto what's going on campus. It's just that there was a surge in cases following Thanksgiving. And so while the last report that I had was that there were a lot of positive people testing positive, but the positive cases were not gravely ill, did not require hospitalization, but they're trying to to clamp down to make sure that there's not classroom transmission, because right now it's all been sort of community and bringing things back from Thanksgiving transmission. And so, just trying to get through finals in this little bit at the end of the year is it's always something, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was I was volunteering on Saturday at the booster clinic that the county ran, and about 1,100 people came through, and there were a lot of Cornell sweatshirts among people getting boosted. And I thought, well, all right, well, these are folks if they're going off to somewhere for the holiday break, we still get boosted. So that was good. We appreciate Cornell's really strong efforts on contact tracing and tracking your own folks, and obviously the sequencing of the tests. And it's Cornell's been a great partner all along. So
yeah, I mean, I was going to say, it's so important to us to not be a drag on the community and be able to support the community in this regard, because we know how much the community depends on a thriving Cornell with a full student population. And healthy employees and all of that. And so, this is right at the very top of all of our priorities. Just when we think things are easing up, they're always, like I said, there's always another curveball.
Yeah, right. Committee, any questions, specific questions or comments to Diane?
And if there's questions that I can't answer because the news is new, I will check in with Gary and make sure that information is provided. But I know he's very good at keeping you up to speed on what's going on campus and how it affects the community.
I was interested, you were very keen on the NDAA, the Defense Authorization Act. Was that about research funding? Is that something specific?
So research funding is an important piece of it. DoD funds a good bit of research, basic research, engineering research, some applied research. We get some direct support for our chest facility from the Air Force Research Lab. So those are our sort of bread and butter issues. But there's also been a concern of Congress about this sort of science and security. We'll just sort of put it in that big umbrella, but a lot of it has to do with Chinese, so undue foreign influence in research. And so often to try and prevent something from happening, Congress will attack a problem with a sledgehammer rather than say what's really going on. And so, the science press is full of news about cases where faculty are being prosecuted by the Justice Department for non-disclosure of other support, foreign support. And it's not that there's espionage going on, it's that they didn't fill a form out correctly. And so we're trying to strike that right balance that protects national security, that protects our economic interests, but that also allows for the really important collaborations in basic research, because that's how you bring science forward. And so there had been a number of provisions that had been put in the defense bill that essentially would have made it very difficult to do research with Chinese partners, to support Chinese graduate students, very important in our graduate programs. And so, trying to strike the right balance has been a challenge over the last couple of years, because we know that there are, the Chinese government is not necessarily the best actor with the purest of intentions. But that does not make our Chinese graduate students spies. And so it's, like I said, we are working very hard to strike that balance. And so a lot of the harmful provisions were moved out of there. I think we're still going to have that debate in the context of the Competition and Innovation Act, but it's not going to, it was not part of the defense bill this year.
Okay, so that you feel like there was progress in that came
Absolutely,
out well.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, it also gave us a chance to, again, to talk about these issues. And so, if you talk to the folks in our research office and the folks in the Global Cornell office, they have implemented procedures up and down campus to make sure that faculty are disclosing their lines of support. They're talking about who their collaborators are. If they're taking, internet, if we haven't done any international travel in a year, but again, making sure that our funding agencies are aware of all of the sources of support that different people are getting, so that there's not this notion that that Cornell faculty are somehow stealing US secrets, because that's not the case. And so taking away all of the likelihood that there would be concern.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah. And I noticed and was starting to see the withdrawal of the nomination of, and I can't remember her name, the woman, Cornell professor who was
Marova. Yeah.
Was for one of the banking positions. That was a shame. That was a shame.
She had been nominated to serve as the director of the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. And again, once her nomination was put into place and she so there was sort of a firewall between Cornell and her. And so, but I think that she was treated very poorly by certain members of the Financial Services Committee in her confirmation hearing. It was very unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, Diane, best, you're out there on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Stay safe. And it sounds like a good place to be. You know, and if you want to take a break, you can always say, oh, wait, my internet went out. So
Exactly. Well, I am looking forward to hearing what the counties have to say. So I'm just going to sit here quietly and listen to Patrick. But he's been listening to me quietly. So
excellent, excellent. Well, thank you, Diane. Thank you for your friendships for over so many years. Folks may not know that I think it was 2019 February. I went to Washington to do some jawboning, and Diane walked around with offices and sat in some of the meetings with me, and that was a tremendous help, and it was a great opportunity to spend some time with you, and I really appreciated that.
oh
So,
well, me too.
thank you, Diane. Good holidays. So, and then and for Diane and anybody else, this document is in your packet, is online in the county's meeting portal. This is great, Patrick. Welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, we have such a great team here, and I think this is the best. You know, just even the way it presents, right, is the best one we put out. But there's a lot of good material in our legislative priorities. So, but even before that, thank you for inviting us, and I'm really happy to be part of this discussion. I think Ryan usually comes. Obviously, my name's up there. I think I got the link from Ryan, so apologize about that. For those that don't know me, I'm Pat Cummings. I'm counsel with NISAC. I want to even back up and tag on what was already said earlier about Martha. I said we got a great staff here, but I mean you feel like part of the staff. I mean you help so much, and you're gonna be missed. But again, as said before, I know we'll stay in touch. It's part of how we do these legislative programs is the secret with NISAC. It's that I'm happy to make it a public secret is. We don't have that large of a staff, but we lean on for education and knowing what's happening in the field and ideas into you all and certainly key players. And Martha, you're right up there with the ones that we lean on the most to help educate us and figure out what we should be focused on and how to answer things. I also do a shout out for Tompkins County. I'm on the phone all the time with Jay Franklin from your county. He's fantastic. Really appreciate that you employ him as a county employee and that you let him help us on these statewide issues that are impacting, your county. But then he and Martha do such a great job helping us figure out, well, yes, that's happening in Tompkins County, and then some, right? And that's what we do, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about with this few minutes I have with you is first go over our legislative agenda that we at NISAC would do a lot of things. We educate, we advocate, and this is what we have to, the template that we're pushing for the state legislative year. That doesn't mean that, it's a live document. So if you see something on here that you think should be reworded to, we're missing something that's really important, whether that's now or 4 weeks from now or 3 months from now, call us up. We'll definitely, we want to help. And so that's, and this is how we find out what we should be pushing for. But what we're talking about is getting state law to change to help you run your services better. So with that, know that the January session is coming up quickly. That's gonna be the start of the session of the year. The bill numbers are all gonna stay the same this year. So if you saw a bill number from last year, it's gonna be the same going into this year. They do need to be reintroduced, but that's just a matter of process, and that will occur. Typically, it's rare that doesn't happen. January 5th, that is the state of the state. We'll start to understand what the governor is looking for with her budget. Much better there. I mean, it almost usually the state of the state really outlines what we're going to see a few weeks later with the first draft of the state budget. And then January 10th is when the legislators return in their official capacity in session where they can start passing bills. So any advocating that you do, that's when new bills can get introduced and be voted on and go live. We're going to see a lot of, usually they take a few days to get into town, sort of, welcome backs, and you don't see too much legislative action right away. I'm predicting this year it's going to be a little different. I think we're going to see, so that you're seeing a lot of COVID related EOs, directives, regulations of late, including the mask mandate. They're all sunsetting, and we'll see if it happens on January 15th. I think in part that's because, we're going to wait and see where we're at, right, a month from now. But then also in part, that gives the legislature a chance to look at this and say, hey, do we need to make state laws here? Do we need to be part of this as well? We're going to keep it with regs. We're going to keep it with EOs. And I anticipate there'll be a more of a working relationship with the legislature and the governor with COVID action. So we might see some bills and some passage of things like that in those days. And who knows? It's a wait and see. But that's just something it's not even a nice act thing. That's just me looking at and thinking it's interesting that we're aligning that January 15th when they don't have to on all of those dates and them being back in town. So I'm assuming they're talking, and we might see some bills on that. So we've been actively meeting with the governor's office already on these priorities and others, and for her forming her budget. We're meeting with legislators on these. We wanted to make you aware of them, and really it does help when we are all aligned as counties, speaking as one voice on issues. And it's not always easy to get 57 counties to agree to row in the same direction, but on most part, I think the priorities you see in front of you were there, right? And that's why we have our NISAC conferences, and we talk with committees and get diverse ideas and people in there to express where we want to go, and then this is where we meet. And so your help and your push on these as a county, whether it be through resolution, talking to your legislators, local, and even outside your county, it really is helpful. Like Martha, you've been at
Let me jump in.
days, right, with us. I remember walking up the hill with you, and so it's great. Tompkins County always had a good showing on those, and I think COVID willing, we'll be doing that again, be in person, but if not, Zoom works just as well, if not better in some ways. We've got a lot more access.
So let me just break in for a second. So are our resolutions actually effective? I mean, sometimes people say, oh yeah, this just goes into the dustbin. Does it really make a difference? And do people mostly read the titles, or do they read the whole resolution?
Yeah, it depends, right? I mean, it's depends on the issue, depends on the staffers but are they passing that up? I think, listen, at a minimum, it can't hurt. We even talk about that some of the NISAC. We're passing the same resolutions. I feel like we're spinning our wheels. But I've seen, and I think you've probably seen this too. It's like you can pass something for 5 years, get no traction, then all of a sudden the 6th year you do, and sometimes it's just one more legislator or one phone call where somebody gets it. So it's like you can chip away, feel like you're getting nowhere. So yes, I think that they're helpful. Are they can you declare touchdown when you pass those? Certainly not. Is that the end of it? Certainly not. I think they're almost you should use them as a tool to take with you when you advocate as talking points, right? And to make sure you have something to hand over. It definitely requires follow-up to answer your question. You can't send that and just assume it's like when applying for a job and you push that resume, like I don't know, I just went to the ether. Who's really reading this? So you need to do follow up and be proactive. But it's a great tool, and it's a great tool for us to understand. Hey, 12 counties really feel this way, and so it helps us internally push something harder or less hard. One county resolution, no one else is really, and and then you can get inter-counties to try to pass the same resolutions. Now it's almost like all this group county talking about the same thing, and so they can help in that way. But yeah, I get it. It can feel, who's really reading this?
Yeah, but I, as you know, I've used them. I mean, for example, we passed a couple of resolutions on redistricting. And then I went and spoke at the public hearings, and I was able to say, this is the county position, and it's a bipartisan resolution, et cetera. Do you have a date or dates for the advocacy days?
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna run to Ryan and find that out. I know we do. I don't have that in front of me, and I even want to say that we've moved, and I'll get this date to you. We have moved our NISAC conference, typically in late January or February, and this is our, the one that a lot of people come to, and county officials and go up the hill to help us advocate. We're moving that to March of this year, so it's gonna be a month plus later. So just for your planning purposes, know that. But yeah, we usually do a May day, is what we call it. So sometime in May for after budget. You do the post budget advocacy, and then the after budget. So I know we're gonna do one in May. I think we have one before that, and I'll run down the hall and get that exact date for you. But I apologize.
Okay. All right, and I hope we have a little time in case people have specific questions about your package.
Yeah, let's go over at least the first page 2, right? Let's go over.
Let me go to Deborah's got her hand up. Let's start.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just start with Deborah. Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, a couple of things, Patrick.
Yeah.
We appreciate you being here as always. The first thing is, I was a little distressed that you were moving back your winter conference, only because for me, the high point of that is always Dave Lucas's presentation on the governor's proposed budget, and it gives us a heads up and time to get ready to lobby.
Yep.
So I hope that you might be able to arrange some way to put that on virtually early enough in the winter so that it gives us that same lead time.
Yeah.
But secondly, an issue came up because we were doing our lobbying last year by Zoom virtually, and we had some disagreement among our number about whether or not those lobbying sessions would be subject to the open meetings law and would have to be streamed and published. Does NISAC have a position on that?
I don't, but I can just give you my thoughts off the top of my head on that. I think it's first, I really appreciate the work that those in the state Open Governments Committee do, and they're great. They're a great resource. And if you, I see Deborah, you're not unless you must use them. If everyone else doesn't, reach out to them. And it's a few person shop, and they get back to you with pretty specific questions. And they don't have to give you a formal opinion. They just be like, here's my fact pattern. What do you think? And they're not looking to do gotchas. They're looking to give information and make sure that they want people to do it right in real time. So I think on those kind of things, I wouldn't feel afraid to reach out directly when you to them. And it's not, they're just giving you guidance. It's not the law. They're saying this is how we probably would see it, if asked, and of the law, right? It is a law. What they're telling you doesn't necessarily just totally lock you in, but it can give you some thoughts. In general terms, without knowing the numbers of people that you had there. So what you want to do is be careful when you've got enough individuals within Tompkins County that can
trigger a quorum.
So once you're, I remember a past presentation I saw there that talked about some town supervisors and council that they were on a golf trip, and I think there were I don't think they were legislators, but there were was a 5-person voting committee, right? And they were on 4 of them were on a golf trip together in a golf cart. And they started talking about town business, and somehow people found out about that. That was considered a quorum, and that was subject to the open meetings law, and therefore potential ran in violation of that, right? And there's different consequences for that. But
We don't play golf.
Yeah, this is
Okay,
why I've
but-
never
but
played
it's-
golf, but that's
exactly. But it's as interesting as that, right? You got to be careful. And now, I just heard a presentation at the county attorney's conference on this kind of issue, and this was last week. And what the Committee on Open Government said was that you can even attend conferences and things or go to meetings like this. But if you start to get to a quorum, you can't start. You have to be honest with your intent. We are not going to discuss Tompkins County's business. Like we're here for an education, let's say. Like we're here to get trained, but we're not. And so we happen to be in the same room, but we are not here to conduct any, and we're not going to put that hat on, any official planning of business of the county or anything. It's like we're literally here to sit and get trained on open government media, but like but it's really, you got to be careful. So I'd say if it wasn't a quorum, you're safe. You can always split that up too, right? To make sure
Right.
that you're not doing that. Speaking of committee meetings, they said, and this is not my opinion, this is what I heard. And so it's like secondhand on this same training I had with, I think it was Christine from Open Meetings. She was talking about county committee meetings and that you got to be careful on those because yours obviously is open to the public, but many of those are not open to public committee meetings. As soon as with the Zoom calls, especially, you get other legislators in that want to listen to these. If when they start adding and getting in there, now you've already got a quorum that could potentially vote on something. So they're
Right.
in the meeting, and although you're calling it the public safety committee with only 3 legislators, but now 10 others just joined that Zoom call, and are you now meeting? It can be. So I think it really comes down to, I'm battling a lot. You got to watch the quorum and then go with what your intent is.
okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, Mike Ziegler, did you have any questions in particular about the whole package here?
No, I'm good. I read over it. It was good.
Okay, I do have a couple specific things which I will, I'll write to you and Ryan
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is great. It's certainly, it's should be real easy for people in a hurry to click through and say what's your position. And I like that.
But it's good.
Yeah, I like that a lot of the bill numbers are included. So if our legislature wants to take action on a particular thing, we kind of know what legislation to reference. So that's also really good.
Absolutely.
So,
Can I backtrack too? Because you made a first point about the conference. Yeah, first, we're not going to lock in that time, I don't think, every year. But I do want to point out, I promise you this, we are going to do our same internal process with this governor's budget, meaning when the governor puts out her budget, our staff here is going to crank through that. And within a day, we'll get you some major bullet points of what happened. And then through an email communication to you and all the other county leaders. And then depends, probably within a week, we're going to have or 4 or 5 days, we will have a solid breakdown. And do we catch everything right away? No, it's thousands of pages, but we will have the vast majority of things that hit counties that are in that budget, good, bad, ugly, to let you know. And we'll do that breakdown. So you're going to have that tool, right? And you'll have us at any time to call, in that time, if you've got questions, then we will have opportunities to do, we're going to certainly advocate, and we're going to need you, and we're going to be, I'll get you that date. We will be up the hill around those times, in that January, February period. one of the reasons we were actually, Ryan and I were talking about like how we like this being in March, was almost to get to your point of like worrying about it, which I get, like we could be there right when this is happening. Is sometimes our conference was so close to when the governor's budget dropped, almost within a week,
Right.
that we didn't have enough time to even break out what is in this, what's not, how are we supposed to be writing our resolutions, and what are we supposed to be reacting to this. Give us a little bit more time to chew on it, still get in the fight by being in March, because it's not going to be passed until April. But it'll still give us time to go up the hill and push on that, but it'll give us a little bit more time to make our arguments, make sure we didn't miss anything. And maybe reform resolutions based on that. We get a little better response time. That said, I get it. You want that information and that opportunity to be spoken. You see it. Let's go. And we're still going to do that this year.
Thank you.
We're all getting really used to webinars. And so you've done a lot of
We're
good ones.
turning into zombies.
Yeah, it's a weird world, but it's been good, and thank you.
Let me raise two other issues, and I would actually recommend that you might take a few minutes, and when this meeting gets posted on YouTube, check back to the beginning of it. Charlie Krasansky from Cornell was on, and we were taught we had a fair amount of conversation about the OCA budget. Also about the restructuring of SUNY and how it relates to community colleges.
Okay.
So do you know Charlie?
Don't.
Okay. Well, you're meeting Diane Miller right now. She's Cornell's government representative in Washington, D.C. Charlie Krasansky is the Albany government affairs, head of the government affairs office for Cornell. He's been doing, I think he said today, 36 years. So he knows where the bodies are buried. So there's a lot of good comment, a lot of good analysis by Charlie about the SUNY budget, community college issues, and the OCA budget. And I would recommend that, take a listen there, a few minutes at the beginning.
I definitely will.
I wanted to mention, in looking through your packet, I don't see anything about childcare, and maybe I skimmed over it and missed it. But I'm going to loop into was next on the agenda was a part of my report. I'll just report now on a conversation that a few of us had yesterday with Emily Badalamenti in the governor's office, and Nora Yates from OCFS, as well as Bud Sweet from Empire State Development, about childcare. And and with thanks to Cornell, because it was Zoe Nelson in the Albany office of Cornell that got us that connection and got us that meeting. Meeting was with a couple of Cornell people, Michelle Artaby on the staff and Mildred Warner on faculty, as well as Melissa Perry from our Child Development Council. We were sort of we want to really lobby about the fact that we've seen federal money and then pass through the state for operating expenses for childcare providers. And we know that's really critical. That's been sort of kept childcare providers, afloat to the extent that they have stayed afloat through COVID. Childcare was already, an industry in terrible economic straits before COVID, and it was really really took a big whack. So federal money has helped with operating expenses and subsidies for parents. What's still missing is, we have sort of technically a childcare desert in Tompkins County, and I think there are many childcare deserts around the state. We don't have enough slots. We have a huge, offhand, I can't remember the gap, but we have a huge deficit when it comes to what the need is and what's available. There's so little capital money, or there's really no capital money available to share for providers who are prepared to expand their slots, or for people who want to newly get into the business. In our community, 4 different programs got Regional Economic Development Council grants in 2019. one was to build new, and 2 and 3 were to expand. That's only matching money. It's 20% of the money you need. A childcare program can't find the other 80%. And COVID made it so, it was impossible for any of those projects to move forward. So our pitch to the governor's office was, we know that she is very committed to this issue. She feels it personally. She's been in Ithaca talking about this issue.
Yeah.
We hope her budget will reflect that. And it fits beautifully with the fact that the state has, as Charlie said at the beginning, state has a lot of money now. A lot of it probably really more or less one-time federal money.
Yeah.
This would be a big time, really important time to invest in developing new childcare slots around the state. So I know our legislature feels strongly about that. It may, as I said, maybe it's in here, the package, but I don't see any. Am I missing anything?
I don't think it is, but this is really interesting because yesterday, and I've just been busy with figuring out mask mandates and other stuff, so I haven't been able to round up with my coworkers on this. But in my calendar, I've been going back and forth to say this sounds really familiar, this issue. On Friday, I've got a meeting that I was tagged on with NISAC with Erie County and Cornell. And it's just labeled childcare discussion. And I believe it's going to be this issue. I think this is getting, I think this is starting to get traction from, I think the second floor heard you. And I think it's starting to, this is starting to come. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's in this, but I think we're starting to take some meetings all of a sudden on this issue. And it's probably, you probably shook the tree a little bit or something. It's good. So thank you for, it's interesting timing that you said this. 'Cause I was actually after this meeting and round up with people and be like, what exact, I needed some talking points to figure out exactly what this meeting on Friday is about. And I think that's
All right. Well, maybe we can communicate offline about this, because the Regional Economic Development Council system is recognizing this. I mean, they sort of, at least especially in the southern tier, have prioritized for a couple of years that they wanted to see proposals from childcare providers. So that's, we got one proposal funded in 2018 and 4 in 2019. That's a big deal, but it's great, but it's not enough. For one thing, it's a reimbursement program, and daycare providers can't put the money up front and then wait a year or two to get their reimbursement. So there are a lot of issues there. So let's follow that up, because
absolutely.
I think the government, I think it would resonate with her priorities, and I think the money, it fits with having one-time money.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll round back up on that. And to your point about, but making it even more global about this on the one-time money, both with the state and the counties, I do think that's something to focus on strategy and just understanding when we're advocating for any of these things. You'll notice a lot of what we do ask for is, and always we try to get. We want to make sure you have as much flexibility to do the services that are needed for local governments. Part of that's advocating for as most dollars as possible. Funding, right, is a big thing we push for. And I do think you're going to get the question, if not your county, but maybe I think you're situated. There are a lot of local governments are in, considering where we thought we were going to be fiscally, we're in relatively good shape right now. Right. So it's going to be natural getting the question of, well, why do you need this kind of fiscal relief, or why are you looking to change this that might open up revenue streams for other services when you've got X amount today? It is a lot of these funds, and I think you know this, but I think it's important when you're advocating to remember to say these are stopgaps. This is one-time money that your county has, and the programs we're looking for are for perpetual streams to continue our perpetual services and keeping them strong. And so, for both both ways for pushing. Now's the time to push to get, because the state does have one-time money to spend, but also on the other end, when we get combat, naturally they'll say, well, why do you need, looking at why should you not continue to pay AIM or just the Distress Hospital and Healthcare Fund? It's because these monies need to be used for everything from DSS to public defenders to, everything we do. And you know that, but it's those are continued costs. Is the answer.
Yeah, I think we all have our one-time brain and our ongoing brain.
Yeah.
Physically. Well, Patrick, we're gonna thank
I'm
you.
lucky
so
if I have a
much.
brain at all at this point.
Thank you so very much. We've got our county administrators here, so we wanted to give them a minute for an update from administration. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for your partnership on things like civil service. Patrick's been
Yeah,
one
it was fun.
leading civil service reform measures we've been trying to get through too. So
Yeah.
and also our local housing, our home rule bill for housing funding. You were a big help on that. So Patrick, it's been great to work with you all these years.
Thank you.
very much.
Happy holidays.
You
Thank
too.
you. All right. Lisa, hello. We've scrunched down a little bit. I'm sorry that we're a little late, but hi, Amy. Thanks for being here. You got a brain dump for us?
Do we have brains left at this point? That's the question. Yes. So as you know, as was shared with you earlier this morning, we've shared with public information or press release with the community regarding the mask mandate and the mechanism for the public to share complaints with our local health department. So that form is now out and published on the Department of Health website, asking for the kind of the name, date, location, and description of the complaint. And that's also been shared with a reach out to the business community so that they're aware of this mechanism there. So that was shared this morning. We've been, Dominic is working, we're all working on a press release to follow Cornell's announcement this morning to provide more community context for that. And so that we're hoping will go out pretty shortly to provide that information about the detection of Omicron in our community and what Cornell is doing in reference to that. And then I think I shared a lot of updates yesterday relative to the budget in relation to Tiger and intergovernmental initiatives, our shared services plan. We've been fulfilling the steps in the timeline for that in terms of the convening the panel, holding the public hearings. I have to say, Amy has taken the lead in coordinating all of that. The final vote of the panel will be next week to finalize the plan and submit it to the state. So I think where that plan stands is pretty much, I think, what you saw last time at the legislature, that we're looking at among the municipalities with the highway departments and cutting edges and the further addition of municipalities into the health consortium, and a lot on the agenda to look at for next year's potential cost savings. So I think that's in a nutshell what I have. I'm not sure, Amy, if you have other items or any more details there.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Questions or comments from committee members? In this NISAC, and we've been talking about this NISAC package, and it's worth looking at if you have time. There is one of their pitches is to make it easier for states to be able, for other municipalities to be able to create so the state should ease the creation of local government health insurance consortia under Article 47 of the insurance law. And there's a Breslin-Steck legislation. So You know, so common, such common sense. I hope they do it.
Yes.
Mike, yeah, Mike, go ahead, question?
Well, since Lisa mentioned it, I just wanted to ask, these reports that people will file at the website, what will be done with those?
So there'll be a reach out to the business that was mentioned in any complaint, just providing education about the mask mandate. And it's going to be more of an education focus. And I think a confirmation email back to the individual who filed the complaint.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, so basically this is if you go into a store and there are other customers, let's say, who don't have a mask on, you can file a complaint. I would imagine if there are staff who don't have a mask on, there's probably more juice to make a sort of enforcement rather than a customer who happens to come in, and unless somebody's standing at all right, PetSmart, you know, somebody's standing at PetSmart saying, I'm sorry, you have to put a mask on or you can't come in here. I don't know if businesses are going to do that.
Businesses are not going to do that, Martha. I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Target, who said that the first go round we had with masks, some Target employee tried to persuade a customer to wear a mask, and a scuffle ensued and an arm was broken. And no business is going to put their employees on the hook for that kind of abuse. And if they did, no employee is going to accept that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the best we can do is provide the resources to businesses for signage and, you know, education, and we'll all just continue doing the best we can. There is a drop-down list on the form for if it's a staff person versus someone else in the establishment, and more descriptors. And I think the environmental health department is going to probably prioritize and be able to respond as their resources allow.
It's a check all that applies, so you can report multiple things, if it's employees, if it's, you know, staff, if it's everyone. So there will be options.
Okay, that sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. So we do have, in terms of what kind of clinics we have the second shot clinic for children, like 5 to 11. Is that right? That's Friday or Saturday?
That was also announced this morning. And Amy, do you have that off the top of your head?
I don't know which date it is. It's coming up. I feel like today has already felt like 6 days, so there's a little going on there. And we also have youth vaccine clinics in the communities. A Lansing clinic and a Newfield clinic coming up
Thursday and
before the
Friday.
end of the year. It's Friday.
Okay, that's
Thursday in
great.
Newfield and Friday in Lansing.
And what do we know? That sounds great. Do we know anything about upcoming booster clinics?
We won't be holding any of those until sometime in the new year, just because we have these other clinics and we have to get through those first. So we have not set up any of those. There are still booster shot appointments available, not in Tompkins County, but in surrounding counties. I just had someone who signed up in Watkins Glen for tomorrow. So they're still available if people can get transport there.
Okay. All right. Anything else from committee, folks? All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hang in there. Hang in there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, committee. And thanks.
Uh-oh. Martha, you froze.
Me in the legislature chambers. Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're back. You're
All right.
back. Next time you want to freeze
Now, am I back?
facial position.
What?
I said,
can't
next
hear
time
you.
you want to freeze in a better facial position. That wasn't your best shot.
Oh, no. Oh, well. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Your voice is
Can you hear
back,
me?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's just quickly say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Bye.